We are Africans, and we are back to Africa with
Sure.
all the know-how and expertise that we have acquired living in the West. And it's really now our vocation to ensure that our people benefit from the opportunities that we've had living in the West by ensuring that we bring access to great therapies, which today are really out of reach for African patients. We're very excited and very dedicated and devoted to this cause. And we are looking at manufacturing several monoclonal antibodies that are coming off patent in the next 2-3 years. And the world will hear about us. They will hear that we now have brought the capability on the continent of Africa to make these medicines available to African patients.
All right. Good morning, everyone. This is a second episode of the Finite Capital podcast, and we have a great guest this morning, Dr. Patrick Lukulay from Biosawa, and wanted to introduce Pat and kind of go into his background. Really happy to have you here, and I think you have a very, very interesting story to tell, and doing lots of great work in biologics. So thank you. If you want to introduce yourself, and we can get into the discussion.
Absolutely, Finith. Thank you very much for this opportunity to talk to you today, to tell you about the Biosawa story and my background, and just tell you how excited I am at this opportunity to really talk about what Biosawa is doing on the continent of Africa. Again, Patrick Lukulay is my name. I was born in Sierra Leone, educated in Scotland and in the United States, where I pursued a PhD in analytical chemistry. So given that background, I have had a long career working for multinational pharmaceutical companies in the United States. Spent a long career at Pfizer, where I was leading their analytical research team, developing various analytical technologies for looking at Pfizer medicines prior to their use in clinical trials. Now I'm with Biosawa. I serve as the Chief Operating Officer, responsible for all operational aspects from production of monoclonal antibodies to quality control, and then to packaging, and then regulatory oversight of the products that we produce at Biosawa.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks so much for the introduction. Yeah. Before we get into it, I thought we'd go into a little bit of the Biosawa story. So I know in our intro call, you had a really nice explanation on how you guys came up with the name. Maybe we could go into that a little bit and talk about the founding.
Absolutely. So Biosawa is actually an African term. Usawa is a Swahili term meaning equity, and bio is, of course, biologics. So our drive is to bring equity to the biologic space. So today, you know that monoclonal antibodies, which are biologics, have really transformed the way we treat severe illnesses, such as cancer, autoimmune diseases, and some diabetes-induced eye diseases. They are currently the standard of care for these severe illnesses in the West. But unfortunately, in Africa, these medicines are out of reach for two reasons. One, they are not available. Big Pharma does not really bother to introduce these medicines on the African continent, purely because of economics, right? And also, when they are available, they are really very expensive. So just to give you an example, a common monoclonal antibody today used to treat cancer, which is pembrolizumab, Keytruda for Merck, made by Merck, will cost you around between $60,000 to $100,000 per treatment per year. This is completely untenable in low middle income country, such as in the African country. So we want to change this reality. Given our background working in the West and developing these medicines, colleagues from Genentech, two prominent colleagues there, Dr. Mengis Bairu and Richard Chin, who are co-founders, these were the original scientists at Genentech responsible for most of the biologics at Genentech. I have a career from from Pfizer, and we've come together as Africans in the diaspora, as well as our friends from the US and from Europe, to say, how do we change this reality? How do we now make African patients have access to these really great medicines that others in the West are having access to? So hence, we are driven by the desire to democratize access to monoclonal antibodies. For far too long, these great therapies will only show up in Africa after a very long time. And we're talking maybe 20 years later, African patients start realizing that these medicines, we want to cut that timeline to almost zero. When they are available in the West, they should be available in Africa as well. So this is what drives us, and this is what motivates us to embark on this journey.
Absolutely. Yeah, I came across your firm. I was very kind of excited. My background has been, I've been kind of adjacent to large molecule biologics for part of my career. And, I always heard that, hey, it's going to be limited. The manufacturing is limited for biologics. The, of course, cost, they're probably not going to be, as generalizable as small molecules just because of, all of the constraints that, it takes to manufacture, it takes to produce, everything along those lines. So when I came across your firm, I was really kind of, interested in what you're specifically doing to reach that goal. Could you go into a little bit more on, what are the actual what are the steps? Because it sounds like I think there's a lot of, like, at least in my career, I've run into a lot of, oh, that's never going to be the case. There's not going to be able to solve that problem. Hence, we need to develop small molecules versus biologics. And I really appreciated your story when I came across it. So.
Exactly. And we will prove very soon that this can be done on the continent of Africa. But we also have to be understanding of the constraints on the continent and try to tackle those constraints given our background. So first, there are some few developments that we have to take advantage of. The first one is there have been significant development in manufacturing technologies that would now really allow you to set up these manufactured biologics using what we call single-use bioreactors. So previously, the big companies with big pockets use stainless steel, dedicated stainless steel for the manufacture of specific monoclonals. We are going to be using single-use bioreactors, which are very flexible and also very cost-effective. And we are going to also deploy these in what we call modular units. So you don't have to construct a fancy big building. You can actually have a modular system fabricated in the West with all the environmental controls, air handling systems, water systems in place, and just bring them and deploy them in a big warehouse, ensuring that you are meeting all the quality requirements and good manufacturing practices. So we're going to be using modular systems for this. Other developments that have occurred recently that now allows the manufacture of these monoclonal antibodies in a very cost-effective manner is that there have been recent developments in the regulatory landscape, right? So previously, you need to conduct full-scale phase 3 trials in order to demonstrate efficacy and safety of these medicines. But today, just recently, US FDA has now indicated that you don't need phase 3 trials for biosimilars. So biosimilars are like generics, equivalent of small molecule, that you don't need to demonstrate phase 3 trial, because just demonstrating analytical similarity, given the complex analytical tests and battery of tests that you have to go through, if you show analytical comparability, you don't need to show, to demonstrate clinical efficacy, because it is induced or deduced that if your analytical similarity is great between the innovator product and the biosimilar, that indicates clinical similarity as well. So this will reduce the cost drastically because clinical phase 3 trials, cost hundreds of millions of dollars in the West. We no longer have to worry about this. Third, we are also going to try to improve the supply chain, right? So instead of having a lot of middlemen, like in the West, really the cost of medicines escalate when you have all these wholesalers in between. We want to be able to get direct to the hospitals and to the clinic. That ensures that the patients will get these drugs at the kinds of prices that we really would like them to get. And then fourthly, we're going to explore some initiatives on the continent, such as pool procurement mechanisms, where you pool demand from multiple countries for a given product, and thereby the economy of scale increases, and we can then reduce the cost because of these pool demand. So we understand what the constraints have been leading to high price in these medicines, and we are going to attack those constraints and make sure that they do not result in a high price of these medicines for the patient. So lastly, I'll just indicate that our goal is to sell these medicines at 10 to 20% the cost in the West. This is what would make us realize that we have achieved what we set out to do, because we really want to ensure access by reducing cost.
Absolutely. I think you said too, it was to kind of replicate the success of the anti-HIV medicines as well. Is that right?
Correct. So, the HIV era, Big Pharma developed these antiretrovirals. They were extremely expensive. Something like $1,000 per treatment, right? The Indians took the challenge and said, this is an existential threat. We have to have access to the technology to make this. So most of them implemented what they call compulsory license, to say we would allow our pharmaceutical companies to manufacture these drugs, and the price came down drastically. So from say $1,000 to something like $10 per treatment. And this really helped to address the HIV issue. So sometimes people don't get access to medicines, not because the science is not there, but it's just because it's out of reach of the patients. And we all have to take this seriously, because health is everything. Health is wealth. If you're not healthy, or the nation is not healthy, you cannot develop. So we have to ensure that when good therapies exist somewhere else, geography should not dictate where a patient or patients in different geographies should not be constrained from having access to these great medicines that science has come up with.
Sure, absolutely. There should definitely be a way to get it, and then that's what I was kind of very excited to hear as well. It's not just focused on like circumventing some IP restrictions or anything like that. It's, you guys you're going after, real technological improvements to really reduce the cost of manufacturing, which was, very, very exciting to me to hear. Is there anything else? What are the kind of the main challenges that you run into? Is there like a main roadblock? Or?
Yeah, we just want the world to know that we are here to stay. We are Africans, and we are back to Africa with all the know-how and expertise that we have acquired living in the West. And it's really now our vocation to ensure that our people benefit from the opportunities that we've had living in the West, by ensuring that we bring access to great therapies, which today are really out of reach for African patients. So we're very excited and very dedicated and devoted to this cause. And we are looking at manufacturing several monoclonal antibodies that are coming off patent in the next 2-3 years. And the world will hear about us. They will hear that we now have brought the capability on the continent of Africa to make these medicines available to African patients. So stay tuned, and you'll hear about BioSource's advances in this area.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thanks so much. I think we've got a lot of good content, and I think there's really excited to hear how the story unfolds. Do you have any other thoughts before we kind of conclude, or
no, yeah, really thank you for this opportunity, because sometimes great things are happening in remotest part of the world and people don't hear about it because the narrative, it's not always what it's not always accurate.
Sure.
So I really like the opportunity for you to reach out and hear our story and give people the impression that things are not as bad as you might think in certain parts of the world.
Thank you absolutely. Yeah, and I was really excited to hear people are changing some like well-established kind of beliefs that biologics are have to be restricted, or you're really working to expand. It's great to see there's efforts out here like this to expand access to patients who really need the drugs. So thanks so much, Pat. I really appreciate you joining us, and wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much.